Do you want more? More time, more balance, more love, more sex, more money, more real, and less bullshit? This is the Women Wanting More podcast with Dr. Karen Osborne. Real life, real stories, plus real tips to get you more of what you want.
So, sister, I want to share with you an experience I had at a recent seminar, which is called Funnel Hacking Live. I've mentioned this in the last couple of podcast episodes, and I will probably keep riffing on this because there were so many amazing things that happened that I want to share with you. I want to share with you what I really learned. And to really, listen, for those of you that are new to the podcast, even if you've been listening for a while, my intention, my why, my reason for doing this podcast, my reason for creating Women Wanting More, my reason for coaching women virtually, online, face-to-face, live events, one-on-one group masterminds, is to really teach you what I've learned over the last several years, for 2 decades, on how to really show up powerfully in your life as the badass female that you are, as the power that you have as a woman to show up powerfully in your marriage, in your business and work, in your own body and with your family. I don't know why I went off on a tangent there, but my why for doing all this stuff. And so when I share with you these experiences, it's a way for you to really compress time. You don't have to have it take 24 years like it did for me to get to this place. I can help you get there faster. And that is my biggest why for doing this. So when I was at Funnel Hacking Live and Tony Robbins spoke, if you don't know who Tony Robbins is, you're living under a rock. He's one of the most influential humans, we're going to say very simply, in the personal development world. He's now talking a lot about money and the world of finances, and just an incredible human being. Masterful businessman. He owns 31 companies, multi-billion-dollar net worth. Just an amazing human being. I remember reading Tony's 2 first books, Awaken the Giant Within and Unlimited Power, in my early 20s. And I remember reading those books and also did a tape program at the time. Yes, cassette tapes. Back in, that would have been mid-90s, early mid-90s. And it was a 30-day program. And just my mind being blown wide open, sister, of like, wow, I can create my own life? This is incredible. Tell me more. And he was kind of one of the first people that I read and studied that really helped me to see that. So what Tony had shared in these 4 hours were many, many gems, many just amazing things that he said that make complete sense. But this is one that really rang true with me. He talked about how you end suffering, right? How you end suffering in your life. And that the fastest path to do that is through appreciation, right? Or what someone referred to as gratitude. Now I heard this and I'm like, oh, that makes complete sense. Like when you appreciate something, it's hard to be in suffering, right? When you take a look and you're thankful, you appreciate the people, the things, the circumstances, what you've created within your life. It's very hard to be in the place of lack. It's very hard to be in scarcity. It's very hard to be in suffering when you were in that space. And so Tony took us through an experience that was absolutely incredible. And I'm trying to think I did one of his big seminars, which is called Unleash the Power Within, back in 2001. 4 days, like early morning to like midnight. We firewalk, like it was crazy, intense, amazing, life-changing. And I'm trying to think if Tony did this back then or some version. He might have. It was a long time ago, 16 years ago that I had that experience. And so what he did was this, is he had us close our eyes. And now, mind you too, we're in a room of 1,500 people. We've been through like all this like bob dancing. If you see any Tony's like little clips on Facebook or things that he's about and what he does, you'll see a lot of like the dancing and up and moving around and music and, high five and energy. And that's a lot of NLP stuff to really like to stay in state, right? So people don't sit in a chair and slump over and just take notes, right? Like they're engaged. There's energy about that. When there's energy and there's motion, the brain learns best that way, right? You're engaged. And so it was at the end of this. And so we're all we've all drinking the Kool-Aid at this point, right? And we're like, all right, we're all in to kind of go through this exercise together. So he had us close our eyes. And he had us close our eyes and think of the way that Tony really worded this. I think it was like, the three people and or experiences that you really appreciate in your life. Like, think about those moments. So right away I'm like, oh, I know what that is. My wedding and the birth of my two sons. Now, we adopted both of our sons. So to kind of think of each of those and what that experience was like. And so I think first about my wedding. And my husband and I, my king, my love, Ed, we've been together for 24 years and married, a little bit over 24 years, and married for 17 this year. Crazy. Love him so deeply. Bugs the fuck out of me some days. And there's lessons and all that shit. And I mean it. I don't mean that like you like a rainbow, kind of like, oh, there's lessons in that. There's gifts, and have it like really being bullshit. I'm like, no, like really, there's great shit that comes up when the shit comes up. And so I think of that. And I'm like, what was that experience like? Well, we got married on the beach. And we were in school still at the time, chiropractic college. Didn't have a lot of money at the time. And so we got married on the beach. And my friend Guy, who has since passed away, very special person in our life, married us to the ceremony. And we had just close family and friends. There was about 20, 25 people, that's it, in a circle. And I remember being at the top of there's like a big set of stairs leading down to the beach. This was in Santa Cruz, California, a beach called the Selva Beach. And I remember being at the top and my dad just like, oh, fuck, I can go back there. Crazy, right? So I remember my dad and him just like crying, just been like, oh my God, Dad. Because he's walking his little girl down the aisle, right? Which our aisle was a big ass set of stairs. But so I remember him walking me down. And my dad at that time would have been, oh gosh, probably 8-10 years prior that he had a head injury. And so, today too, my dad's not doing the best. He has Parkinson's. And so even like back then, like his movement was not good. He was a very different man from what I grew up with after he had the head injury. He was very emotional. He felt, he showed emotion. It was beautiful how things like changed with him after this brain injury. And so I remember him, check that out, fucking birds in the story, just like there were seagulls on that day. Holy shit. Crazy in the background as I record this podcast episode. Couldn't time that out any better. So we're walking down the aisle and I come down to my circle of friends, and our friend Guy had gotten these beautiful flowers. I'm trying to think now when I look back, I think they were, I can't remember now what the name of those flowers that are all over Maui. They're white and there's like a purple version of them. They have the most incredible smell. It's so, oh my God, I'm like having like an out-of-body experience to record this podcast episode because Maui is such a special place for us now, but that happened years later. How about that, hey? Yeah, life is all about circumstances. Bullshit. It's all connected. All of it. So we walked down onto the beach, probably like 100 steps. My dad not being able to walk as well. I'm holding on to him. More like he's holding on to me. And we walk down and the circle opens and there's Ed. And we had our vows that we had written. If you know something, a poem which is called The Invitation by Raya Mountain Dreamer, I think it is, Raya Mountain, which also became a book. We had passages that we read from that. And vows that we wrote for each other. And there's our friend Guy. And I saw everybody, but all I saw was Ed. And yeah, it was just the most magical day. So as we go through this exercise with Tony Robbins, that's the first thing I think of. And we're closing our eyes and we're feeling all this stuff, right? We're feeling appreciation because Tony Robbins goes through this exercise every single morning. It's part of his daily practice. I was like, fuck, I might choose to amp up my game because that was such a powerful experience. So that is number one thing that I think of. Number two, my oldest son, Tyson, when he was born, and he's a little bit over 6 now. I'm out of breath as I'm walking here, back from my boys' school. And for 7.5 years, my husband and I tried to conceive on our own, weren't able to. So we adopted our 2 boys. And his birth mom, Chanel, wanted us there at the hospital. We weren't in the room, but we were outside the room. And good Lord, I'm a hot mess in a good way today. I remember everything leading up to that, like when we got the phone call that her dad had called and said she's going to labor. And then when we got there, and she progressed very quickly, started to dilate really quickly, 10 centimeters, rock star. Chanel's birth mom, if you're listening to this, we love and appreciate you so much. 16 when she gave birth to Tyson. Amazing young woman. And so I remember being outside that room, and it's almost like the door was open like a little bit. I could kind of see in, but she had her boyfriend at the time, who was Tyson's birth dad, and her parents and a couple friends and maybe an auntie, and then I remember hearing Tyson cry for the first time and just like literally dropping to my knees. Oh, Jesus. And like the feelings that I had at that time were just extreme gratitude, appreciation. Like, oh, fuck, finally, I get to be a mom. It was just like all of it coming together, and it was just, here we are 6 years later. Whew. And I can feel the exact same feelings. But that was moment number 2 that I thought of in this experience. And then number 3 was our youngest son, Kai. Now, Kai was quite different, his placement. He had just been born. We got the call that day. With adoption, sometimes the placements are instant. Birth mom had kind of been humming and hawing, and then now the baby's here, and it's like, sweetheart, like, you're going to choose a family. So she chose us. He was born at 2:30 in the morning or 2 something. We got the call by 10:30. Come pick up your boy. You've been chosen. It was like, oh my God, holy shit, here we go. And, but then she took off, birth mom, out of the hospital. And, she was solid in her decision, but she was just very afraid, right? You can imagine the significance of that decision, right? To not give up your child, but because you love them so much and you know that you are not ready and or able to be a mom, that you give them the greatest gift, which is to place them with a family that can really, be that mom that they're just not ready to be yet. It's the most beautiful gift that I ever have and ever will receive, is our 2 sons. And so she bolted. She bolted before adoption papers were signed, which now meant under the court system that she had, quote, abandoned her baby, and he was going to go into foster care. And so they're trying to get a hold of her, so it was almost like this 36-hour of insanity. So the very next day is the story that I remember, is the memory that I have, the appreciation of going to see Kai. Because the next day, finally, everything got straightened out. I'm like, okay. We went and saw him. He was a little jaundiced, so we had to stay in the hospital for the next couple of days. It ended up being just 1 more day. And we went to go see him, and Tyson was 2 and maybe 3/4. He was exhausted. It was like past nap time. He wanted to meet his new little brother. He wanted to hold him. They wouldn't let him because he was so tiny. Kai was like 5 pounds, 5 ounces when he was born. His birth mom was teeny tiny, like 4'11". And so he couldn't, and he got all upset, and Ed had to take him out, and I had to stay there with Kai. And so I went back that night and held him. And in my nicest way, the nicest way that Karen can play in the sandbox, because they didn't want me to take him out of his little incubator with all the UV lights on him, which is, anything about jaundice, the UV light is really what helps that jaundice move out of his system. And so I was because I knew that he hadn't really been held yet. I'm like, this little guy needs to know that he's loved. And so after I pleaded with the nurses, and they allowed me to get him up, swaddle him, took him into the nurse's station kind of behind. They had a little area for me, and I held my boy. Held my Kai for the first time. And I rocked him, and I sang to him. And I told him how much that he was loved. And I remember I took this picture of me afterwards, it's about maybe 8 o'clock at night, going back home to Ed and Tyson, before it was called a selfie. It was even like a shitty one, but I remember looking at the picture and just being like, I feel so happy. I feel so much bliss and so much gratitude. I'm standing at the elevator, waiting to have the elevators to open so I can go downstairs and go back to my car and get home to my family. And I took that picture of myself and I was like, man, look how I look. Like, this is incredible. I just want to freeze frame that. So these are the three stories, the three memories that I had in my mind as I was going through this exercise with 1,499 other people in the room with Tony Robbins taking us through this experience, and like just tears streaming down my face. I mean, look at, I can't even tell the story to you right now, sister, without like just losing it all, and in a good way, like just really like feeling the appreciation, feeling the gratitude. So there's one thing to kind of think about it and go, I'm really grateful. And you can really like mean that, right? It's not just bullshit, like you truly mean it. But I'll tell you something, sister, it was a whole other level to really feel that big of an appreciation by going through that experience. And it took maybe all of, 5-10 minutes tops. Felt like it went on forever, but it didn't. So if you want to end suffering within your life, feel appreciation. So here's your more tip. I'm going to encourage you to go through the exercise we went through with Tony Robbins. Think of 3 moments in your life where you just felt such appreciation, such gratitude, and just sit there with your eyes closed. Right? Create some space for yourself. It doesn't have to be long, and you can do this in like 3-5 minutes. I think he says he does this each day, and it's like 3 minutes. It's part of his early morning 10-minute routine that he does every single day. It's the 3 minutes of appreciation, of gratitude, and just like feeling all of it. And I promise you, sister, suffering cannot exist in that space. So do this exercise once. If you want to include it as a daily practice, you may. I think it's something I'm definitely going to have now as part of my more 4 in the mornings. And suffering is no longer there. There's no oxygen for suffering to live in, to breathe, when you stand in that place of appreciation. And it's not that you're not cognizant to maybe the challenges and the problems and the real shit that's happening in your life. But just know this, you get what you focus on in your life. So where are you focusing? Life is difficult. Life is hard. People will screw you over. Shit will happen that you don't expect. This is life, sister. But if you can stand in appreciation, if as a daily practice, again, you try this on once as a more tip. I can tell you right now, like just recording this podcast, having, my husband and I fighting a little bit over the last day or so and just being pissed and in that space, I'm just walking back in my house in a moment and just everything shifted for me. Appreciation. If you, sister, would like to be part of a community of like-minded women that are committed to appreciation or committed to creating power in the more 4 pillars of their life, which are their business, their marriages, their bodies, and their families, then I want you to join the Woman Wanting More Sisterhood. I launched this, the time I recorded this podcast, 2 weeks ago. There are 45 women now within this sisterhood. The results of this has already been like absolutely incredible. And I really created this because there are so many of you that have wanted to work with me and don't have the financial means to do so in group, thousands of dollars, and one-on-one, several $1,000s. So in the sisterhood, this is something right now, there's like very limited spots left it's $47 a month. Like, oh my God, don't tell me you don't have $150 a day to spend on yourself. And right now too, because these spots might go today and this podcast comes out a few days after I record it, then it bumps up to the next tuition, which is $77 a month. Still, $250 a day. $250 a day. We all spend money on useless shit every single day. That's less than a price of a Starbucks latte to really be around like-minded women, holding yourself accountable to the things that you really want in your life. And so I want you to head over to drkarenosborne.com/sisterhood. If you are on your iPhone right now listening to this episode, you can just click on the little I and you'll actually see the link in the show notes. So you can just click on the link, that'll bring you right through. You're going to watch a short video from me explaining about what happens within powerful groups, explaining my why for the sisterhood. You can enter in your email. It'll take you to the next page, which you'll get all the information, what it includes, frequently asked questions. You're going to actually see already, because this group is now live, results of sisters that are sharing their experience, video, written, their Facebook posts that I had permission to be able to repost some of them, those that wanted to share to really encourage other sisters like you around the world to be part of the sisterhood. So that's over at drkarenosborne.com/sisterhood, and you can join right from there. So I will talk to the next episode, sister. A life of more is just one step away from you doing the fucking work every single day. I love and appreciate you.
To get the show notes of each Women Wanting More episode, including the How to Get More tip, subscribe to the newsletter at drkarenosborne.com/newsletter.